Powerful insights often occur when you least expect them. On Transformative Leadership Conversations, they're at the heart of every episode. Hi, I'm your host, Winnie da Silva, and together we're exploring a spectrum of leadership themes through the compelling stories and insights of seasoned leaders and prominent experts. So therefore, in each episode, you'll walk away with the inspiration, strategies, and tools to enhance your leadership, build effective teams, and lead thriving organizations. Welcome to a special bonus episode of Transformative Leadership Conversations. So, back in October, I released an episode called The Lie Almost Every Leader Believes. And that lie is this: my leadership value is measured by my productivity. It's a belief that I myself have also struggled with. So, in that episode, I committed to do what I often recommend to my own clients. I committed to spending 45 minutes each week in November on pure strategic thinking. So, no computer, no phone, just pen and paper. And in addition, I recorded a very short video after each of those weekly sessions to capture and share what I learned. So, you're going to hear all 4 of those installments today, exactly as they unfolded week by week. This commitment really showed me that once again, that leadership growth doesn't have to always come from huge reinventions. Often it comes from tiny experiments or small commitments that we make that can really capture and create momentum and impact. So let's get into it. Here are my 4 weekly reflections from those strategic thinking sessions. Hi, everyone. So a couple of weeks ago at the end of October, I published a podcast episode entitled This: The Lie Almost Every Leader Believes. And the lie is this: what I do determines my true leadership value. Now, in that episode, I admitted that this is a lie that I believe myself, and it's a problem. So I committed on the podcast to spend 45 minutes of thinking time every week for the month of November. So this is my first session that I did with myself. And I got a lot of really great responses that other people wanted to do this too. So I'm encouraging anyone who's listening right now to do something that carves out time for you to think. And I would keep the bar really low. I kept it low. And I'm thinking like even lower, even like 10 minutes. Do something to find time to think. So a couple of insights based on my first session today. Number 1, I was kind of like, what am I doing here? Like, okay, what am I supposed to do? What project should I work on? Which specific thing should I think about? Is this time to just rest, stare out the window? What am I doing? And I thought, yeah, any of those, right? I was just basically giving myself permission to do whatever I wanted in that 45-minute time slot, which is kind of luxurious, right? Giving yourself that permission, sitting there with my water and my notebook and a pen, and that was it. It was really nice. So that was interesting. It also took me a few minutes to wind down. I've been up since 5, getting in, sitting here on the couch at 10. I need to kind of get into it for a minute. Didn't take long, but, that was there. And the other thing that was interesting is I just kind of thought, we're so busy absorbing and listening to everyone else's opinions and thinking, kind of like what you're doing right now. And also everyone else's creative inventions or creative thinking or writing or podcasts. And when is it that we give ourselves time to do that ourselves, to think for ourselves, right? To create for ourselves or create what it is that we want to create. So I felt like I'm kind of excited about these next couple of thinking time opportunities I'm going to have this month to do some of that. And then the last thing I'll say is that at 30 minutes, I looked at my watch and I thought, wow, it's only been 30 minutes. And I feel like this time that I had was so rich, and I wrote down a lot, some random stuff, but some planning stuff. And it was really interesting to think that only in 30 minutes was it so useful and beneficial. So again, keep the bar low, do something, And it might not be what I did. It might be something completely different. And that's kind of the point is do something that feels like you have time to think and that you're giving yourself permission to do that. So that's all I have for today. I'll check in again next week. And I hope some of you will join me in carving out time to think. Bye. Hi, everyone. It is another day of experimenting with some intentional thinking time. So, if you guys remember, last week was my first installment. This is number 2 of 4. And it all started with the episode that I released, which was the one lie almost all leaders tell ourselves, which is that productivity equals my leadership value. So, in today's session with myself, it was good. Um, when I started out, I was grateful that I had the time. It felt expansive, like 45 minutes to do kind of whatever I wanted to do. And, I realized that I would have really have liked a prompt. Like I needed some like structure and guidance, which is what I always like to have. And part of that, this whole experiment is maybe not having that and just allowing myself to, have this time and to think. So I made up kind of my own prompt, which was what is most important to me right now? I was kind of focused on work as it relates to work. So I thought about that and I thought, what is most important to me right now? And kind of another experiment that I'm running with myself this month is to read 10 minutes of a business book every day, actually, as part of this class that I'm taking about not using your phone too much. So without going into all of those details, this is the book that I'm reading, Tiny Experiments, really good. So I was thinking about that during my 45-minute intentional thinking time. Like, what other experiments might I want to think about running as it relates to what's most important right now? And then you know what I did? I took a short little nap. I did. I've been up really early. I was up really early, and I took a nap. So that was nice too. So that's it. I hope that you are feeling inspired to take some intentional thinking time to yourself because you need it, you deserve it for yourself, your company, and your business. And it's really critical. So enjoy. And please tell me if you've tried this out yourself. Hi, everyone. It's Winnie. If you remember last month on Transformative Leadership Conversations on my podcast, I was celebrating 20 years since I started my business. And one of the episodes that I published was called The Lie That Almost Every Leader Believes. And the lie is this, that our true leadership value is based on our productivity. So that's a lie. And I believe that a lot. So what I did is I put out a challenge, which I myself took on, which was to, and my personal challenge was to spend 45 minutes every week doing some strategic thinking, paper and pen only. And so I did another session. So I'm just recording these videos to give you an update on kind of what I learned during this session. So this is 3 out of 4. And here are some insights really quickly. One is that it took me a few minutes again to kind of get centered and kind of get into that strategic thinking mode, which is fine, but interesting. Two is that once again on the 30-minute mark, I felt like I accomplished and I thought so much. This was great. Extra 15 minutes was great, but again, 30 minutes would have been fine too. So keep the bar low, just an encouragement. Another is I've noticed it's been cumulative. So this is really powerful because my brain knows that I'm going to do this again, like in another week. And so throughout the week, I've been thinking about what I was thinking about last time, and it's been percolating so that when I came to my session this week, it was really even more valuable because I had been thinking about it, and I could go even deeper. So I love that it's actually impacting not just those 45 minutes every week, but it's really impacting the way that I think throughout the week, which is awesome. And then again, paper and pen. At some point I was really tempted to like, I need to find out more information. I need some more data. I need this. I need that. And it's like, you know what? I said, nope, paper and pen. So that was a really good reminder to just rely on myself for some of the thinking that I wanted to do. It doesn't mean that I can't do research and data and exploration later, but really protecting that time with paper and pen. So that's it. I know it's quick, but just wanted to give you an encouragement to do some strategic thinking yourself, whatever that might look like for you. Okay, see you next time. Bye. Hi, everyone. This is Winnie. So this is post 4 out of 4. So my last update on my tiny experiment, all coming from the episode that I released last month called The Lie That Almost Every Leader Believes, which is that our true leadership value comes from our productivity. And so what I did is said for the month of November, every week I'm going to spend 45 minutes doing a strategic planning session with myself with pen and paper. So a couple things. What's the most important thing that I learned this week when I did the session? So what I learned, and kind of just by accident actually, is that I happened to have a conversation, an hour or plus conversation with a really close and trusted colleague and friend of mine. And so we talked about, my business and the work that I've been doing and how I want to do things, potentially, pivot, new, different, whatever. Really good conversation. And that was such a great conversation to have before I had my strategic planning session or thinking session with myself, because it really gave me a lot of things to be thinking about, a lot of ways in which I could go deeper in my thinking from the conversation that we had. So my biggest takeaway today in this session is that strategic thinking does not have to be a solitary act. It can be something that you do with other people, and in fact, better to mix it up and do it on your own and do it with people in any combination. So that's really my takeaway for today. Really quickly, I want to say that my biggest takeaway in this series, which is now ending, this is the last one, is that, really keeping the bar low. I think I've already said this like a million times, but it's just so important to get started and get going. And the bar that I kept low was doing it for 4 weeks and doing it for 45 minutes each time. And I think that was like just the right amount. 2 was accountability. Doing these videos was really fun, and it kept me accountable to both doing it and reflecting on it, which was great. And so those are some really great things that I just gained from this experience, and really just being able, and I mentioned this last week, connecting the dots between what I thought about now in today's session and how that connected to all the other sessions and how they kind of keep building and snowballing together in a really great way. So I'm going to end with asking you guys this question: is what tiny experiment do you want to try that maybe we could try together? When it comes to becoming really the kind of leaders that we want to be, we have to think about how do we do that and use potentially tiny experiments to do that. So let me know if you do have an experiment you want to try, and maybe I'll join you. So that's it. What did you guys think? So the things that I took away from that whole tiny experiment was this: thinking with someone else can deepen the quality of the time that we spend doing that strategic thinking on our own. That's 1. 2, it turned out that the commitment to show up each week actually created more value than the time I spent. So that consistency was really key. 3, my insights definitely deepened between sessions and over each week. And then lastly, sharing the journey with you kept me accountable. So as we look ahead to 2026, a brand new year, I'd love to hear from you. What tiny experiment are you thinking about trying next year? Or maybe even the rest of this year? I don't know. What's that small, doable shift that could potentially open up something meaningful in your leadership, your work, or your life? If you decide to run one of those tiny experiments, and if you want company while doing it or want some accountability, reach out to me. I would love to know what you're going to try to do. Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Transformative Leadership Conversations. If you're ready to take your leadership to the next level or empower your teams for success, I am here to help. Reach out to me directly at winnie@winifred.org or check out my website at www.winniedasilva.com to learn more about my work in coaching executives, developing critical leadership skills, and working with clients to build effective teams. You can also find me on Substack, LinkedIn, and YouTube. I'd love to hear your reflections or suggestions for future topics, because you are always welcome to take a seat at the table where every conversation has the potential for transformative change.